There is some maintenance that some of your appliances could need that the winter's a great time to do that, especially because you'll be getting, the softer water. Not soft, but softer.
Welcome to Herrimanology,
the official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Thursday, October 16th, and another day, another overnight rainstorm, which made it not only the wettest October ever. As of this morning, we are now, at least in Salt Lake, the fifth wettest month ever in Salt Lake, which is pretty wild because we had no rain all year.
Yeah, and we had a bunch last year.
Yep. Kind of weird how that works. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot about water today. I'm John LaFollette, Communications Manager for Herriman City, joined today by, I think, Water Conservation Coordinator is your title?
So I'm Water Quality and Conservation Coordinator.
Almost. I missed a couple of words. Will Schwartz.
Yes.
Will's the water guy.
Yep, I'm Will in water.
We've actually even mentioned you before that we would like to have you on the podcast. So Will's joining for the podcast today. Before we talk about water, we have to acknowledge today's a big day. I don't know if you even know. We got to announce today that Trader Joe's is coming to Herriman. We think next year.
Okay.
So we got to officially announce. People have seen us kind of beat around the bush for 3 years on this. A long way today, coming to the Commons at Herriman Town Center. We'll talk about that more another day. I'm going to rope Sandra in our Economic Development Department, talk about that next week. But some people only listen to the podcast, and we want them to know. So,
Okay.
big day. Have you been to Trader Joe's?
I have. And, obviously, first thing that comes to my mind is Biscoff's bread.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming soon. We'll talk about that more another day. But let's talk about water. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to try to keep this under 20 minutes is usually our long episode, but got a lot to go through. First, I wanted to illustrate just water infrastructure. Most people turn on the tap at home, and that's kind of the end of their thought process of how the water gets there. And then occasionally they'll see Herriman City yelling at them on social media to conserve water. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the most thought that a lot of people give it. So yeah, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yes, we like it when that's all you have to think about is you don't have to wonder if there's water when you go to the faucet. So we work really hard to keep you supplied and also to keep things healthy. But yeah, there's some of your water takes a really kind of a long journey before you get to it. The longest would be the water that we get from the Jordan Valley Conservancy District. Mm-hmm. So when you drive past that treatment plant down at the south end of the corridor, that's not sewage or anything gross. It's drinking water. So that whole plant building inside outside, it's I think of it as a giant Brita filter.
Nice. I like that.
Because also they have literal carbon filters. That's their last step. That they're upgrading to increase their capacity. But that water actually comes from the Jordanelle and Deer Creek reservoirs.
It's a long way from here.
Yeah, so it gets piped all the way down here. And so since that's surface water, people swim in it. It's just out in the open. It's, really just lakes, call them reservoirs. But,
yeah.
So they have a several step process where they remove solids and filter the water and disinfect. And that's why, something we'll touch on in a little bit is the hardness. Mm-hmm. The water we get from Jordan Valley is not as hard as Herriman water. It's still, according to the EPA, hard water.
Yeah.
But we think of it as soft, even though it's still actually quite hard.
Right.
We're just used to very hard water.
I found it funny. The EPA, I think, designates water hardness like anything over 10 grains per gallon is extremely hard. And
yes.
And for us in Utah, the entire state of Utah, not just Herriman, but in the entire state of Utah, that's actually kind of extremely soft.
Yeah,
because
that's as good as you can get.
Yeah, the way our geography works and where our water comes from, that's as good as it gets. Other parts of the country just have different setups, but we just have hard water in Utah, and especially in Herriman too.
Yes, and so The EPA definition of hard water for just hard water is 3 grains per gallon, which is, we don't have any sources available like that.
Anywhere near here.
Yeah. So,
And speaking of sources, I don't mean to cut you off, but I do want residents to understand we don't just have one giant pipe from Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District that supplies all of our water. It's a lot more complex than that. We have a lot of different sources of water. Some of them are local, underground wells. We do get a lot of water from Jordan Valley. But if you wouldn't mind just describing just kind of how that works, and it's in different parts of the city, we'll get different, I guess, percentages of those different sources. I mean, water's liquid, so it kind of blends, but water that's sourced in one spot of the city may not really ever totally make it to the other side of the city, and vice versa.
yeah, for sure.
And those different sources have different characteristics.
They do. The water's always a blend of multiple sources. So depending on where you're at in the city, that will affect your hardness. So if you ever are wondering what you should set your water softener at, you can give me a call. Just call the Harriman City phone number, ask for Will, or just say you have a question about hardness. Always happy to help because it is specific to different areas in the city. Some areas might basically always get Jordan Valley year round, and some areas might never get Jordan Valley. Mm-hmm. And so that's why when people ask, my first question is always, where do you live? Because we have numerous connections to Jordan Valley, whether north and south through the city. We have several spots where we're connected to them. And also their Bingham Canyon treatment plant provides water for the north side of town.
Which is where I live, so I have great water.
Yep.
Because it goes through a little bit more than even our local sources have to.
It goes through a giant RO filter, like a life straw, basically.
Just on a much larger scale.
Yep. Picture basically a warehouse full of life straws about this big around, and there's several hundred of them that are probably 50 feet long each. There's a couple different spots where Jordan Valley treats like that because it can take everything out of the water to the point where they have to blend it with unfiltered water from other sources so that it's not too acidic or corrosive.
Yeah. So there are standards set by the EPA and the State Division of Drinking Water that mandate a certain level of water quality before it ever reaches your tap. And water from different places has to be dealt with differently depending on what's in it and where it's been. We have some underground sources that don't have the same exposure to surface life, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, to crud.
So that maybe doesn't have to go through quite as strenuous a process. And we sample and test everything all the time to make sure that we're well within regulations. And I do want to talk about EPA regulations too. Just those are really conservative. There's people often make fun of government for just doing the minimum. The minimum in this case is
It's quite strict.
it's pretty strict and it's pretty safe.
Yes. So anytime you're looking at an EPA standard, you're going to see an acronym that's MCL, which is maximum contaminant level. Contaminant sounds scarier than it is because most things are only a problem if you have a lot of it.
Yeah. And it's not to say your water is contaminated, but those are substances we have to monitor for.
Yes. And probably 99% of it is making sure that you still don't have any, or very small amounts, because there's all kinds of things that we have that are present to even like the single digits of parts per billion of some things. And there's many tests and samples that we take that will get the results, and everything we're looking at is not detected at all.
And one thing that you mentioned to me before, just as we've been chatting, is one example is I think it's called alpha emitters. It basically a radioactivity level. Again, this isn't to alarm people. This is to illustrate that your water actually is safe, and how much of this water, if it had a substance in it, to have any risk. Maybe just go over that illustration just to kind of give people a perspective of where these EPA standards are that we have to stay in.
Yeah. That is a great example. So yes, we do regularly monitor the radioactivity of the water. And one of them is we're looking for alpha. We call it gross alpha.
That's the term, yeah.
And so with that, what we're looking for is we're required to keep the water under, this is a term probably won't mean much to anybody other than maybe some of...
We like to get in the weeds.
Yeah. 15 microcuries per liter.
Yeah.
And so I did the math on it one time, and at that level, if you were to somehow, in one sitting, ingest 30,000 gallons...
Hope you're thirsty.
It would be equivalent to having a iodine thyroid test, which is considered an incredibly small amount of radiation.
Yep, and safe enough the doctors do it.
Yep, your doctor could do that, and because we're not to say that is a lot. We're saying that that's how low EPA standards are. Not that the standard's low. That's how conservative the limits are set.
Yeah.
So that what we consider something being a problem as far as compliance in those settings go, we're still a long ways from public health being impacted.
So all this to say, I imagine there may be a few of you listening that are like, holy cow, we have this in the water, we have this in the water, we have radioactive water. If you're going like technically down to the bare bones, I guess so, but not in a way that's going to harm you. Like, those are things that just happen because we're on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Like, there is no such thing realistically as 100% H2O and absolutely nothing else. That's just not how it works. And we go through a lot of effort and invest a lot of time and money and resources to make sure your water is safe.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it tastes good in some parts.
Yeah, some people are definitely more sensitive to the
Sure.
taste than others.
And if you want to get an in-house filter or a faucet filter, knock yourself out. Like, we're not insulted by that. Some people just like to do that, and by all means. But
so most people are going to have a water softener. And like I mentioned earlier, you can call me and I'll be able to let you know what setting to put that at. But if the water, the taste just doesn't jive with you, the best thing for that would be kind of an active carbon style filter. So like a Brita pitcher, or you can get inline versions, or in your fridge, or
a lot of different options there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And depending on maybe what you're more or less sensitive to in the water, we could help you kind of figure out what might be best for your situation.
Yeah. So we have information available. Just reach out and ask, and we'll help as much as we can. We're not going to install the stuff for you, but we'll try to help you out as much as we can.
Yep, for sure. We're constantly monitoring the water to make sure that it's safe, because that's very, very important to us. We have a big responsibility for public health, and actually, a big liability for public health. Mm-hmm. Even compared to, say, a doctor, that, they're kind of thought about as like, oh, there's a lot of liability on what they do. I would argue that, operating a water system, there's even more potential for liability just because a doctor can't treat 60,000 people a day, but we distribute water to that many.
Yeah.
And so we are constantly making sure that the hardness is blended with softer sources when we can, to ensure that we don't have kind of excess hardness. Because even the EPA does have standards on that, what they call an aesthetic problem, or hires where, you're required to have a certain amount or less or you have to potentially get a different water source. And luckily, we can blend to use all of our city-owned wells, which are quite hard because they're drilled down through the mountain that we live on.
Yeah, we live on a big giant rock.
Yep. And so
And that our water comes through that. That's actually one reason why it is so hard, because the water runs against that rock. And
yeah, and the infiltration, it takes years actually for water to make it from the surface, so the ground. It takes years to get down into the aquifer. And actually, if there's evidence of an aquifer being affected by surface activity, it's then classified as basically as surface water. But all of our wells are several hundred feet deep, and we don't have any of that problem because wells also, the way they're drilled and built and maintained, they are essentially sealed from things getting into them, and that way we can also control what we take out of it.
going back to hardness, mid-October is a significant time for a lot of people. This is generally when road paving is changed or stopped for the year. It's also the time when we should stop watering our lawns to get ready for winter. I think yesterday was the day that secondary water sources started shutting off, so that system is going to start decreasing. But I just wanted to touch on both of those items because a couple of them are relevant to you and your work. I want to let people know, one, your water sources could be changing depending on where you live. So if you have a water softener, right now is the time to start adjusting it for the cold months when we get pretty much exclusively Jordan Valley water rather than a blend of Jordan Valley plus local sources. And if you have secondary water, that's going to stop being pressurized before too long.
Yeah, in the next few days, you'll start seeing that your secondary connections aren't going to be popping up your sprinklers. And that's a good indicator that it's time to
stop watering.
Yep. Let your grass get ready for winter.
Yep. So we'll wrap up here. But I do want to mention if you have...
the winter settings.
Yeah, so if you have a water softener at home, and you've kind of dialed in settings to how you want to during the warmer months, take a note of that. Kind of write it down and save it for next spring. Your water sourcing could change depending where you live for these colder months as the city transition. I think I'm actually about to lose space on this card, so if you start not seeing me anymore, that's why. If I'm a black screen to change cameras. But take a note of that. Your water setting, you might need to change your water softener settings for the cold months when your water source changes. Now's the time.
Yes.
So just, if you dialed it into something you like, take a note of that.
The odds are that you do want to change it. Well over half the city is going to see a change. There is some maintenance that some of your appliances could need. That the winter's a great time to do that, especially because you'll be getting, the softer water, not soft, but softer. Namely, like we've mentioned several times, keeping your water softener adjusted to the right level. And I'm always happy to help let you know what that is. Another one that can cause a lot of problems is water heaters. If you don't have a tankless. So you have a tank, kind of just a regular style water heater. It is basically a concentrator for minerals and just the things that are naturally in the water. Hot water is always going to be more problematic than cold water. And then especially since it'll sit in those tanks
For some amount of time, yeah.
Yep.
It can accumulate.
Definitely, I'd say annually to flush your water heaters.
Don't burn yourself.
Yes.
Probably get a company to do it if you don't know what you're doing. And
Yes.
I am a strong believer in the university of YouTube, but probably watch a professional do it first before you dabble in it yourself.
Yeah, because it's something that once you have a good understanding of it, it's pretty basic, but it's also something that can, get kind of squirrely pretty quick. You don't want to fill your basement with hot water.
Right. But a good thing to do to help prolong the life of your water heater.
Yes, for sure. And it's just the same kind of stuff that is maybe leaving water spots on your faucet. But when you have it in your water heater, it's not so much a spot as it ends up being a little chunk. And so that's why, just regular maintenance on your appliances that use water, whether that's, kind of some of your kitchen appliances where you could do a vinegar treatment, especially, I know plenty of people that they've had issues with their dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
The hardness can be really difficult for those. Basically, they can get pretty gummed up because, again, they're using hot water.
Yep.
And they're recirculating soapy food, water.
Now that you mentioned it, just sounds kind of gross how dishwashers work. They're all that way, but I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah. You just let it run, and then when you open it up, it's clean.
Yep.
And a lot of that clean comes from heat.
Yep.
Which heat is always going to make problems worse.
I think that's all the stuff we're going to go over today. We're hoping to do some Water with Will videos at some point. Mm-hmm. We can talk about how to change your sprinkler box settings to not water during the rain. By the way, if it's raining, turn off your sprinklers. If you don't know how to do that, watch a video somewhere. We'll put one together for you at some point. But
yeah, and let us know what kind of videos about water conservation or water quality you'd want to see.
Yep. We'll try to make those maybe through the winter. We'll probably next year is when we'll start putting some of those out, and everything from water hardness to water quality to please stop overwatering your grass to there's a lot of ground we can cover. So more of that another time.
And also, I keep saying it, but I'm always happy to talk about water, especially quality and also conservation. So any questions you have, you can reach out. Just call the Herriman City customer service number. Let them know you have a water question, and you can talk to Will in Water.
There you go. We got it taken care of. That will be all the time we're going to spend today. Thank you, Will, for spending some time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for dealing. I keep looking at this camera because that's the one I normally look at, but it's off right now, but we're just rolling with it. That camera is working, I hope. If it's not, this might be an audio-only podcast. You might see a lot of Will's face.
Yeah, I'm hoping this one works.
Anyway, thank you for listening and watching. As always, if you have a question for us or for Will or anybody else you've heard before, communications@herriman.gov. Send us an email, and we'll get your question read. We haven't had any in at least a month. So people are ghosting us. So anyway, thank you for listening and watching. We will catch you next time.